Hi.
Share the screen, which is this one. So we're up to that very first one there, number 6. Who wants to read that?
Making notes to myself, so someone else is gonna have to start. Oh, I'm gonna have to take this, gang. It is my realtor and my house is in stuff. I've got to talk to him. Just continue without me for a minute.
Okay, well, I'll start reading them. Only those who have a real and lasting sense of abundance can be truly charitable. This is obvious when you consider what is involved. To the ego, to give anything implies that you will have to do without it. When you associate giving with sacrifice, you give only because you believe that you are somehow getting something better and can therefore do without the thing you give. Giving to get is an inescapable law of the ego, which always evaluates itself in relation to other egos. It is therefore continually preoccupied with the belief in scarcity that gave rise to it. Its whole perception of other egos as real is only an attempt to convince itself that it is real. Self-esteem in ego terms means nothing more than that the ego has deluded itself into accepting its reality and is therefore temporarily less predatory. This self-esteem is always vulnerable to stress, a term which refers to any perceived threat to the ego's existence. So this chapter is called The Ego and False Autonomy. If that helps any.
Which page?
Oh my gosh.
58.
58.
Yes.
Because it's different in Kindle.
Thank you, Joe.
Well, I think I've often given with the expectation that I need to give, not because I have it, but because I feel that's the thing to do. But having given, do I feel less than? And if I do, I guess that's the ego.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult to switch the mindset. Because knowing my situation, I've lived on that small disability wage for many years, and to think that there's that extra that you can give with was very difficult to believe, and then holding the faith that, if you do give, you will receive, and all of that. And I'm in the transition of doing such still. I don't have much. I'm still on that disability wage, though when I'm called to give, donation or something comes up, hey, can you give to such and such? And, if I only got $10 to my name, whatever, here's $10. And that just knowing that I didn't need it, and knowing that, I will be provided for, took a little bit to really believe. But now it's becoming more of I don't want to use the word like a habit or a routine, because you never know when you'll be called to give. But just that knowing that I have it, I can give it is a great feeling. And it truly does warm my heart, knowing that I was able to assist somebody that's going through something much more difficult than what I've been dealing with in my years of struggle to thrive.
The hard part comes along when, what if you deem, that, through our own ego, we can assess a situation and say, well, I don't feel charitable. and it's not, I'm not speaking so much, yes, charitable of pocketbook, for me as a female, but charitable in my attitude, charitable within giving of myself, my time, my effort, my my personhood. Um, and I love the sentence that says self-esteem is always vulnerable to stress. Wow.
Mm,
I mean, isn't that the truth? Um, to get to the point where you don't need whether it's stress, lack of stress, too much of stress, that your ability to be charitable is at a constant, wouldn't that isn't that the goal? um
yeah.
but the ego rules, and the ego rules wildly at, at
Mm,
at certain times, especially during stress. Yeah.
mm, yeah. The lens gets distorted when we're looking through stress.
So true.
Mm. I guess that'll be a lovely place to be, where you are in such, you feel like you have such abundance that anybody asks and you can give, whatever that may be, time, resources, money, but of yourself. That'll be a nice place to be.
Yeah.
I was just thinking the other day, I literally helped a friend work on their furnace over the phone.
Mm,
And just having that ability to have the knowledge and be so confident with it that you don't have to physically be there in person. I'm literally helping a friend work on their furnace, and they're out in New Jersey. I'm over here in Michigan. It's just
Wow.
amazing.
That is amazing. Mm, mm,
mm.
mm.
Do we read that again, Gary? So you can get
Where
some.
where we at? Number 6?
Yeah.
Okay.
Luckily,
We've
it's
been
not
working
as
on this deal for like 2
complicated.
days, and this was the realtor that called to finalize our counter offer. So I had to read it all through. Okay, okay. Can I read
Going in a
it?
good direction?
Say again?
Is it going in a good direction for you?
We'll see when they counter, if they counter. We didn't leave them much wiggle room. We said full asking price or nothing. So we'll see what they do.
Well, this will be a good, I think this will be a good paragraph to read then, Gary. Coming from abundance and
Yeah. So only those who have real and lasting sense of abundance can be truly charitable. This is obvious when you consider what is involved. To the ego, to give anything implies that you will have to do without it. When you associate giving with sacrifice, you give only because you believe that you are somehow getting something better and can therefore do without the thing you give. Giving to get is an inescapable law of the ego, which always evaluates itself in relation to other egos. It is therefore continually preoccupied with the beliefs in scarcity that gave rise to it. Its whole perception of other egos as real is only an attempt to convince itself that it is real. Self-esteem in ego terms means nothing more than that the ego has deluded itself into accepting its reality and is therefore temporarily less predatory. God, that's a great line. This self-esteem is always vulnerable to stress, a term which refers to any perceived threat to the ego's existence. That's beautiful. Did you guys pick it apart and talk about it, or was it pretty clear to everyone?
started looking at it. Jane, what was that?
Yeah, I think we did pick it apart somewhat and commented on like I had said, Gary, that how interesting that self-esteem is all too often vulnerable to stress.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know, it's something that we fight against. We wish it wasn't so at times, but truth be told, it can be. Yeah.
I just love this. It says self-esteem in ego terms means nothing more than that the ego has deluded itself into accepting its reality and is therefore temporarily less predatory. So it's like self-esteem is just this less predatory aspect of the ego. And I'm like, huh, I've never heard it put that way before, which I think is absolutely accurate and
To the
fascinating.
point, isn't it? It's to the point.
Yeah.
Predatory. Yeah.
Yeah.
I kept thinking I could just see going into a corporation and talking about, raising your self-esteem and your sense of purpose and all that, and say, well, if you got a high self-esteem, you're just a little less predatory. I'd be like, what are you talking about? Awesome.
Mm. I'm remembering I was listening to one of Wayne Dyer's talks, and he was talking about charity. I'm pretty sure it was just on the theme of charity and giving things, and people donate things that they don't care about. It's like, I don't need that anymore, so I'll give it away. But he had an example of where his son had a favorite T-shirt, and Wayne took that shirt and said, "Oh, well, if you want to give something, I'll accept this one, thank you." And the son's like, "No, that's my favorite shirt. You can have one of these." And Wayne decided to wear it for like a week nonstop. I love this shirt. Thank you for giving it to me. But he's just so funny. But it's, he's obviously got a very strong ego, but at the same time he can, tell these stories that like, oh yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. I fall
Yeah.
prey to this.
Mm.
Who'd like to read number 7?
I vote for Jane.
I was
Okay.
just thinking of Jane too.
I like the number 7.
There you go.
There we are. The ego literally lives by comparisons. Equality is beyond its grasp, and charity becomes impossible. The ego never gives out of abundance because it was made as a substitute for it. Whoa. That is why the concept of getting a rose in the ego's thought system. Oh, yeah, a rose in the ego. Okay. Appetites are getting mechanisms representing the ego's need to confirm itself. This is as true of body appetites as it is of the so-called higher ego needs. Body appetites are not physical in origin. The ego regards the body as its home and tries to satisfy itself through the body. But the idea is that this is possible is a decision of the mind, which has become completely confused about what is really possible.
Mm. I had to type this one in because it's kind of interesting. The ego never gives out of abundance because it was made as a substitute for abundance.
Yeah, well, think about it. It's like when your ego is fed and is full, you feel like you're on top of the world.
Mm.
And when it's not, you feel like nothing can fill that void. So I can totally see that, how you feel rich with attention or rich with physical, attractiveness or whatever the ego is doing at the time. But it is super ephemeral, certainly does not last.
This section's really speaking to me because this week I've had high blood pressure pretty much all my adult life, and I've had lots of different tests done, and it's not actually, kidneys functioning fine, heart's functioning fine. That's not the issue. It's adrenals that are the problem. But you go through the mainstream medical system, and they're just interested in the statistics and just interested in putting the right numbers down. Mm-hmm. So I'm being sent off to do all these tests all over again, and I know that's not the problem. I'm disappointed in myself that my blood pressure is still high despite what I do. And it was a real slap in the face. Is like, no, you're not actually doing what you say you do. You're missing out on, I'm not exercising enough. I'm not meditating with the quality and time that would produce a more profound effect on my life, not just physical, but everything. So it was a real wake-up call that I'm still listening to my ego too much. I'm still too much in that. Yeah.
Well, V, when we fall in love with someone, we become thought possessed a lot. And we think that the validation of the attention from our partners is what elevates our happiness, because we're being validated, like our ego is being filled with appreciation and then validation, of course. But that isn't really why we love someone. We love someone because of the soul they've come here to be. And we love someone because they can see our soul and we can see theirs, and we celebrate that. But, I look, because Robert and I fought all day today. We just fought I didn't fight, but he was like a Tasmanian devil on methamphetamine. We got this offer, and he just went nuts. And I was just like, look, it's not offensive, the offer. Just calm down. We try to have a talk. He said, we're not making a counter offer. It's just no. And I'm like, no, we're going to make a counter offer. And we just literally just till half hour ago, he finally calmed down, which was good. And I know the positive intention behind it, because he doesn't want us to lose money and blah, blah, blah. But, when I look at that, it's like, if I can stay in a place of peace and reason, it helps a great deal, which I did. But at the same time, we have to start looking at that. I will long for that connection again without the other stuff. And then my ego is like, did I make him too mad? Should I agree with him when I don't really agree? Should I buy in? Should I not? And it's all this kind of going back and forth inside of my head. And then we finally just stopped, and I just said, look, I just love you and I disagree. That's just the bottom line. I'm not in agreement, but I love you. It doesn't change that. And when we got there, it was like everything changed. But if I was used in relationship as, we have to get along for everything, I have to be validated that I'm a good person, all that. And then when I just threw that out the window, and I just said, I don't need your approval. I just love you, and that's what it is. When I think about how each one of us navigate our relationships, and this place where, because that has a lot to do with our self-esteem, at least it has for me. And when things don't go right, that feels like a perceived threat to the ego's existence, like something's wrong with me, or something's wrong with the other person, when there isn't. You just have different filters you look out of, and that's just how you begin to start navigating your way through the world. And you don't have to have a judgment on it. You can just go, we both disagree. Where's the place in the middle? Reach mutual understanding. I think these two paragraphs carry a lot of power around what the ego is and what the ego's needs are. And the ego does regard the body and the personality as its home. And that's where we create the most separation. So I just want to rant about that for like a moment, because I think these two paragraphs are really powerful about the ego and our own boundaries. Does anyone have any feedback on anything I said, or was I too confusing?
No, it makes perfect
I have a question, like
Sure.
to everyone. This just occurred to me because I was reading something over the weekend about people with personality disorders. So does that mean that the ego has totally taken over the personality? And so there's a disorder?
Does anyone want to tackle that?
I want to know what a personality disorder is, because I hear a lot of different things that people want to claim they are, and it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
So
I
what's
agree.
a personality disorder? What was the background to that?
Yeah, are we speaking about multiple personalities existing in one person? No, something different?
I think people who are narcissistic, let's say.
Or
That would be
bipolar or something like that?
well,
Yeah.
bipolar is they treat it more chemically.
Yeah.
No, personality disorder would be defiant, some defiant disorder, someone who is against authority and is always, maybe getting arrested or going against the grain, and a fighter to the nth degree, or personality disorder,
Like
someone
paranoid schizophrenic, that sort of disorder? No?
no, truly a personality disorder. They don't function in society because it's almost like their wounds have taken over, and yeah, like obsessive compulsive. Anyways, I was reading about it, or especially narcissism, because that's like such a buzzword these days. So somebody who's narcissistic, they don't have the humanity to feel for others. They only feel for them in a superficial way, and they know how to act like they care when they really don't. That would be a narcissist, right? And that's a
Yeah.
personality disorder. So I'm looking at ego, and it's like, so a personality disorder is where the ego has totally taken over, or just about.
I would probably say, yeah. I mean, I think all of us experience, except for those small, still moments in meditation where we think that we are our bodies, we think that we are our personalities, and we think we are our thoughts and our troubles and I should say, our perceived troubles. And we think that is who we are. And,
Right.
In reality, the ultimate scheme of reality, we're not. I mean, I know in my meditation, there may be glimpses where I can still my mind and moments when I feel like I'm just my soul, but those don't last real long. I mean, I would love them to, but my mind is too undisciplined, and it's kind of like this. So, but as much as I can do, I know that is the few moments in time that I feel free of the ego. I don't know how you get free of the ego unless you bypass the conscious mind, still your thoughts, and step into that still small place inside of ourselves. I don't know what people do to escape the ego unless they're doing something like that. I think meditation is absolutely essential, you guys. I really do. So, I mean, one of the things that, if we ever wanted to do a Course in Miracles challenge, we could say we're going to meditate. Oh, look, I have confetti falling around.
See that?
Somehow on my Zoom meeting, because I got a pro account, whenever I do something like that, I have little balloons go up, confetti falls down. It's the weirdest thing. I'll just be like, I was in a meeting, I was talking away, and I did some movement, and all these balloons started coming up, and I'm like, I am so sorry. I have no idea where they come from.
Magic.
I know, it just shows you the silliness of the ego, doesn't it? But yeah, I mean, what if we just all committed to meditating at least 15 minutes to a half hour a day? See if we can still our minds from the worry and the wrangling and the internal conversations and the personalities and what we have to do that day and all the things that is the ego, that is our own individual concepts of separation. What if we did that? I mean, I think it would be awesome, but that's just me.
Ooh. And we have these accountability buddies right here, right?
Yeah. So here's a little meditation. I know I've told you guys this before, but maybe not. You may have your own meditation. I prefer a mantra meditation because then I have something to focus on. But you can just, go to the internet.
Google. Yep.
And Google names of God in every different faith and pick 3 to 5 names of God and just sit down, close your eyes, and repeat in a prayerful manner those names of God as if you were calling for the Lord. And just focus on the names of God and the love and appreciation you have for the Creator, and pick names that resonate with you and just sit down and do like I'm going to focus for 15 minutes on that power that created all that is. My breath, my food, my water, my clothing, my body, the nature around me. And I'm just going to appreciate that and call out its name. Now, if we did that, I think that it would be a moment that we could free ourselves in the stillness of one thought, which is appreciation for God. And the ego could just go bugger itself for a half hour. What are your thoughts?
Great idea.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Joey, what are you thinking?
Nodding in agreement. The one word I love for God is from what I understand is the original, the YHWH, and it
Yahweh.
to the breath. No vowels. YHWH, and it literally transfers to the breath. So like when a baby's born, that first cry is they're crying out to God. Every breath after, they're crying out to God. Every atheist that hates God, every breath they take, they're calling out to God. And for me, that's the breath work is my meditation, where I go the deepest, where I receive messages, where I speak to my higher beings. And
Awesome.
I do need to get back into a daily routine.
I think it's essential, you guys.
It's almost like these past couple months, I went through a dark night of the soul, or at least that's what another mentor was telling me I might have gone through with all of the stuff going on, but definitely need to get back into my routines that allow me to live from a less ego controlled base.
Yeah, because I keep sitting here thinking, what is the purpose of why we meet? The purpose is to support each other and having those experiences of the holy instant, of the atonement, when we see through the eyes of God at one another. And we look into creation and into the future with a sense of surrender and peace, knowing that if we exhibit the love of God, we're always safe. If we go into fear and feel separate from it, we just live in that sense of separation and fear. So I personally think, hold on to your meditation, develop a meditation, however it resonates for you, and focus on calling out the name of God all day long. Run it in your mind. And sit in stillness and repeat it as if a lover was pining for its beloved. And if we do that, then I think we really are truly practicing A Course in Miracles, because we are centering ourselves on the one thing that does not involve the ego, which is our relationship with the divine. And ultimately, at the end of the day, nothing else really exists. So anyways, that's my challenge. Let's see if I can do it again. That's my challenge. Do I get...
Hey! That's hilarious. I love that.
I feel like a god. It's just so silly, isn't it? Oh my God. That's hysterical.
Joe, I love what you said about the baby, the YHWH.
Yeah, that's incredible, Joey.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
What's the song of that, Joe?
But in my travels of understanding, God as an energy source, I stumbled across it that a long time ago, man likes to put vowels into things, and they took the YHWH and made it Yahweh. And before that, it was literally just the sound, and it hit hard for me. And for me, it's the breath work that I do. When I get those moments and I can do a nice, intense 30-40 minute breath work session, it just takes me to that space where I'm not sitting in ego. I'm literally floating energetically, and there's no hate, there's no confusion, there's no questions, there's just that peace. And I mean, there's times where I don't even feel my pains, and as many of you know, I live in a lot of pain. So to not feel that pain, that's when I know I'm in a space where I'm in a complete, I just feel complete. Like there's no wrong, there's no right, there's just an existence that there's no fault or problem or concern. It's just bliss. I love it.
Wow. Is there a sound that is made from that meditation, Joe, or is it simply the act of I mean, can you make the sound that word sounds like?
Literally the inhale and the exhale.
Okay, I kind of get that.
YHWH.
I like it.
Yeah, if I can
Thank you
find
for that,
some
Joey.
details, I'll drop you an email, or I'll drop something in V's group.
Sweet. Huh. And that, where did you find the information that is the name of God?
I went down this rabbit hole while trying to figure out what God was to me. And I've, as we all know, Yahweh has been the name of God for a very long time. It's not used as often as it once was, but I found that before Yahweh was used, it was just the YHWH. There's stuff out there about it. I just don't know where to just push a button and find it. I would have to jump back down that rabbit hole and see if I stumble across it again.
So
the first time I saw that, the first time I saw that, Gary, was I think it was reading or listening to Greg Braden, because he's just such a phenomenal researcher. He's done all this research on where, why this and why that, and just has a head full of incredible knowledge. I'll see if I can find out where he did the research for that. I'll share it.
I
You
just
know,
found it.
You found
I
it?
just found it. It's called in Hebrew. The writing is a tetragram, and the 4 letters, the theonym, the name of God in Hebrew Bible, are 4 letters, and the letters are YHWH. And it says the name may be derived from a verb that means to be, to exist, to cause to become, or to come to pass. Yeah.
beautiful.
I guess that this was revealed to Moses in the book of Exodus.
I love that.
Yeah, me
Thank
too.
you so much for adding that to us tonight, Joe.
Yeah, thank you.
Interesting. Shall we go to the next one?
Yeah,
That would be mine.
that would be yours.
Oh. I wondered what that was.
Number
It was a
8.
fly. Okay, number 8. Got killer flies here at the moment. They just want to touch you and love you and care for you. And
And you want to smash their guts on the ground or table. Is that
oh
true?
no, I want to love them back. Not.
Give them a bit of
Um,
purification oil, Linda. They hate it.
Yeah, okay, all right. I've got some of that
They
there.
will leave you alone.
All
Or at
right,
least
I'll remember that because it's not always fun wearing a fly net when I'm outside.
Joe
Anywho,
and Jane, you have never seen flies like they have in Australia, ever.
we
You
have
can
flies
walk
that bite.
down, you can walk down the river and your back, if you've got a white shirt on, will be black with flies.
when I worked on site, so I was doing fly in, fly out, the guys used to love, because flies would land on your back. And that was the best place for them because they weren't interfering with you or your work or anything like that. So the guys would walk into my office from outside, because it was just like they call a little donga, like a very small container, shipping container was my office. And they'd walk in, close the door, and then they'd whack their back and all these flies would take off. So by the end of the day, I would literally have a pile on either side of me of, dare I say, dead flies. Because every time I saw one, I just got so good at doing that and they'd just drop. I'd do that and they'd drop. So every night I'd have to clean up 2 piles of flies.
So why is it that we don't have that in the US or other countries don't have it? Why is it particular to Australia?
Australia
I
has mean
think Africa
bugs.
have it.
Yeah, Africa too. And India.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you have been to the Upper Peninsula in Michigan, but there is a time of year where there's biting black flies that do just about what Lady Linda said. And I learned one thing is if you avoid sugar, like if you're going to go camping in the UP, take 2 weeks to keep as much sugar out of your system. I used to be heavy into Mountain Dew, like gallons a day, and they would attack me when I finally learned to quit the habit of Mountain Dew and excessive sugar consumption. They didn't really bother me.
Wow.
So I don't know, it might be a little something as well, because I know you're such a sweetheart, Linda. They could just want you for the sugar.
I know, I love my sweets. I eat lots and lots of sweets, I have to say, in the form of biscuits and stuff, ice cream and anywho. Oh, well. Okay. Should we get back on track?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The ego believes it is completely on its own, which is merely another way of describing how it thinks it originated. This is such a fearful state that it can only turn to other egos and try to unite with them in a feeble attempt at identification, or attack them in an equally feeble show of strength. Oh my God, it's so vicious, isn't it? It is not free, however, to open the premise to question, because the premise is its foundation. The ego is the mind's belief that it is completely on its own. The ego's ceaseless attempts to gain the spirit's acknowledgement and thus establish its own existence are useless. Spirit, in its knowledge, is unaware of the ego. It does not attack it. It merely cannot conceive of it at all. While the ego is equally unaware of spirit, it does perceive itself as being rejected by something greater than itself. This is why self-esteem in ego terms must be delusional. The creations of God do not create myths, although creative effort can be turned to mythology. It can do so, however, only under one condition. What it makes is then no longer creative. Myths are entirely perceptual, and so ambiguous in form and characteristically good and evil in nature that the most benevolent of them is not without fearful connotations. Lots of big words in there, isn't there? Surprised I managed to read through them all.
But is that the myths that they like talk about, the stories in the Bible? That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, because the Bible is totally perceptual of the person who perceived it at the time. And then if you really look at the Bible from the perspective of translation, cultural misinterpretations, editing done by the Catholic Church, there is very little of the original mysticism in the Bible. One person said to me once, there's only about 5 pages in the Bible of what Christ actually said. The rest of it is written by unenlightened individuals. So it's kind of interesting.
One of them put his name on it, King James.
Yeah.
How much was removed from King James?
Who the heck is King James? You're like, who the heck knows?
This also reminds me, Gary, of the way that you describe, is it the Hawaiian culture that has the 3 levels of conscious, unconscious, and
Yeah, I was just going to speak to that, V. Where is that line in here where it says that the spirit, oh yeah, the ego is in the mind's belief that it is completely on its own. The ego ceaseless attempts to gain. No, that's not it. Where is that place where it says the ego and the spirit do not know what each other?
Spirit in its knowledge is unaware of the ego.
That's right. And it does perceive it as being rejected by something greater than itself. Yeah. So in the Hawaiian system of consciousness, there's 3 selves. There's the ohane, which is the conscious mind. There's the onilipili, which is the subconscious mind. And then there's the kane, which is God or the soul. And what it fundamentally states is that the conscious mind only has input to the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind only has input to the high self. The high self only communicates with the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind can only communicate to the conscious mind. There is no awareness between the conscious mind and the soul. It goes through the subconscious mind. So I thought about that for a long time, and this is the conclusion I came to, is that the conscious mind, through its constant focus and repetition through habit of thinking, because how many of you have been thought possessed? Like, I'm totally thought possessed, and I can only think in this loop right now, and I can't think of anything other than that, right? What that is, it's a prayer. Our thoughts and focus of mind is our prayer. And whatever we pray to, we get more of and we make stronger within us. So whatever the conscious mind is constantly contemplating and thinking about impregnates the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind communicates to the high self and goes, this is what we're attached to. This is what we're worshiping. This is our attachment, is this thing we're constantly focusing on. The soul then becomes bound by the attachment and the habit, because Buddha said it best, you go where your attachments are. So by what the conscious mind constantly contemplates, impregnates the subconscious mind, communicates to the high self, and the high self becomes enslaved by, oh God, and probably the soul's going, do we have to really do this again? Like, really, do we have to do this? But the subconscious mind is literally communicating to the soul, this is what we're worshiping at this moment, and maybe our fear. It may be our physical beauty. It may be our physical non-beauty. It may be our wealth. It may be our lack of wealth. It may be any number of things. It may be our anger towards the political system, our country, our people, our race. It could be anything. But whatever we're constantly contemplating, that is what we are saying we are most attached to and what we are most worshiping. So if we were really to look at that, the focus of my mind is my worship, is my prayer. And if I spent all this time worrying about the future, where I could have actually been contemplating my love for God, where would I be in my journey to peace and enlightenment? I don't know about you guys, but if you worry a lot, stop. You know, we already have a destiny. The destiny's already fixed. Signposts are all over the place, and we're going down this road with humanity. And our job is to repeat the names of God and flow through it with as much grace and peace as we possibly can. I think that's our job. I think that's why we've been put here at this point in time in history, is if we don't do that, who's going to do that? I don't want to add to the fear in the world. I want to add to the celebration of my relationship with the eternal and have as much peace as I possibly can, and then extend that out to as many people as I possibly can. Now, I'm not very good at it, but I know that that's my job. Anyone want to add or subtract anything from that?
Yeah, I just want to add that when I think about the soul before we're born into the body, however that occurs, I've thought of it for years as we come in as the souls that we are, but there's a veil that is over our eyes. And so we can't see. And I think that's kind of perfect what you were saying, Gary, about the conscious mind doesn't communicate with the other parts.
With the spirit. It communicates only to the subconscious mind.
The subconscious, it only with the subconscious and not to spirit. And I think that veil is really what I've thought of. And the reason why we can't, it's like we're trying to fight our way spiritually out of a paper bag, that we can't even do that because of our limitations and because the veil is there. But yet, isn't it true that there are those enlightened, fulfilling spiritual times where we touch just that little bit of nirvana, a little bit of heaven, that we feel like it's like a holy instant that we're kind of, and struck by lightning, so to speak. And we get these, or at least I do, I will get these moments or minutes where I feel possessed by my spirit, by the spirit. I'm connected to my God, to my maker. And so I feel one with. So thank you for explaining it that way, because it now ties it all together beautifully. And
Oh, good. I really do think that the way to really live these teachings of the Course in Miracles, because I think the Course is very simple, although it sounds very convoluted, is do whatever meditation is honorable to us, reach a state of ecstasy, prayer, appreciation, and as one as you can get with the divine. And then in our activities in the world, see through the eyes of the Holy Spirit and the atonement at others. And if we can do those two things, even if it's just a moment that we can reach a state of oneness inside, it starts to build a neurological pathway, a habit, where our conscious mind, because we have to do it out of our conscious will, is saying to our subconscious mind, we want God. And if we do that enough, to the exclusion of other wants, we actually become that one voice to, we want an experience of the divine. And personally, for me, it is the only thing that satisfies my fear that I'm alone and that my ego is real. It's the only thing that squelches that and makes it unreal to me.
yes.
Nothing else does.
Right.
The reading of the Course in Miracles reminds me of this, but it doesn't do it. It doesn't do that for me. I have to do the action within my own consciousness to actually choose that relationship with God, and then choose to see that divine source in all things. When I practice that, I'm automatically doing the atonement. I'm automatically seeing through the eyes of the Holy Spirit, which is the heart of the entire Course in Miracles. So my invitation to all of us is that I've been doing this more. I'm still inconsistent as I'll get up, but I've been doing this more. And what I'm finding is I stayed really calm with Robert like a little Tasmanian devil on methamphetamine today, all day, from the time he got up till just about a half hour ago. And I thought, God, I stayed really calm and really rational and really I love you and I'm not in agreement with you. I probably would have lost it about midday, but I didn't. And I attribute that primarily to us and our group and the constant reminder of the Course in Miracles. But again, that practice of really moment by moment, and whenever you can do it, do it. Whenever you see someone, go, oh, aspect of the Holy Spirit in that person, same energy as me, same light as me, same thing animating their bodies, animating mine. We are the exact same energy, and choose to just see that. And if you can, feel love for them. If we could just do that little piece, I think things will feel radically different. Personally.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I feel compelled to ask Joe this question. Joe, where is your pain located in your body?
Which one?
Your worst one.
Lately, my right hip, lower back has been the worst, but I've also been having a lot in my left shoulder.
Okay. So it's left hip, left shoulder?
Right hip.
Right hip, left shoulder. Right hip moving forward. Okay. So right hip to your lower back. Do you know what vertebrae is being affected?
C4, C5. Or no, L4, L5. Sorry, L4,
Oh.
L5.
Oh, all about dad stuff. Okay. So L4, L5, right? And left shoulder, right?
Correct.
Okay. So left shoulder is generally carrying the burdens of a primary female figure. So I'm just going to throw this out to you, and I just want you to contemplate it. We don't have to do anything with it tonight, but just contemplate it. Write down this question: am I carrying the burdens of unresolved emotional issues from my mother? And then I'm going to read you L4 and L5, and I want you to think about this, because L4 and L5 will radiate into your hips and cause a lot of pain.
Am I carrying the burdens?
Say again?
Now, how did that finish? Am I carrying the burdens
Of your mother? Or what burdens of your mother are you carrying? So here's L4: a sense of disempowerment with work and family, pressure to provide and have enough money, struggle with finances, feeling overwhelmed, confused, not knowing what action to take, difficulty in valuing yourself, allowing others to dictate your worth, finding too many excuses for why things should stay as they are, difficulty completing projects, fear of failure, either abstaining from or obsessed by sex. On a physical level, you may experience prostate problems, lower back pain, sciatica, difficulty, or pain during urination. L5, feeling weak, confused, weighed down, as if something is holding you back and you are unable to move forward. Holding on to feelings of betrayal, abandonment, and isolation. Difficulty trusting people and following through with your plans. Frequent self-sabotage, anger, and anxiety. A tendency to see yourself as a victim. On a physical level, you may experience problems with your legs, poor circulation, swollen or weak ankles, cold feet, leg cramps. So I did a piece of work with a gentleman on traumas with his father, and his L4 and L5 for 35 years in chronic pain. This guy lived. And we did the trauma work on his dad and his mother. And in 2 weeks, he had absolutely zero pain. After the session, it started to diminish, and then it just went away. After 35 years, he was like blown away. So my invitation to you guys, because when you said you're in so much pain, I thought no one gets to live like that in our presence. So V, if you're available to do a session or two on some of the trauma surrounding L4 and L5, generally mom and dad stuff. And Joe, if you'd be willing to write out at least 3 memories of each parent as their most traumatic and most abandoning memories, are most harmful memories to you, and then let V decode your nervous system with the TMST technique.
Yeah. And with the L4, L5 I resonated more with. There was a couple in the L5, but not too many. So maybe some healing has taken place with
Yeah,
them.
I'm sure. I mean, dude, if you're breathing till you feel ecstasy, that's doing a big job right there. So, but, do this other work, because it's kind of, these traumas get locked into their cells, and it's just really good to see if we can't move them out. V, would you be willing to do that? Because I just volunteered you, and I apologize in advance.
Yeah, we've been talking about doing that anyway, so yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
This is a good.
This is what we're probably waiting for.
Yeah. I know that none of you are probably up for this, but I am starting a certification in the trauma memory solution technique. Tomorrow night, I'm starting. So if Jane, if you're interested, I know Linda's traveling and all that, and Joey, I don't know what you're doing, but that training is happening, and it starts at 6:30 Central Time. It's 6:30 Central Time, Wednesday and Thursday night to 8:30. Then on Saturday from 9 in the morning till 1 on Saturday, and then the same hours the following week, and then we're done.
Yeah, I didn't jump on
a
board.
whole heap of stuff.
I didn't jump
I'm
on board. I got
interested.
robotics Wednesday.
No, that's okay, Joey. It'll come another time. So
And-
I'm very interested.
are you? Okay, well, shoot me off an email. I'll shoot you off a QR code and you can scan that and sign up if you choose to do that. Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, gang. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being part of our lives. Joey?
If we're all not going to do a word of the day, I would.
Oh,
like
we're
to
definitely going to do a word of the day. Absolutely. Go for it, Joe.
So, word of the day. I did this in my group Reiki last night because I've been feeling this push to pulsate peace out every time I go deep into a meditation. And so I looked up mantras, and the one that came up was Om Shanti Om. And that leads humans to tranquility. So something we all can use in meditations that Gary gave us the homework for.
And gang, radiate out some magical peace because the world needs it right now in a big way. And I do not want to condemn or judge or be fearful of any of it, but I just know that we have to be more of the light we came here to be, because we're incarnated at this point in time. We know stuff. We need to use what we know. We can no longer be passive about it. Who wants to go with the first word?
Jane, you were talking. I couldn't hear you.
Yes, I'm going with how I feel. Audaciously grateful.
Right. I'm going to go with just one word, and that is committed to waking up. No, that's more than
It's 3
one
words.
word. It's 3 words. I can't count, Linda. You know that. Linda, how about you?
Rest the mind, release the fear.
Ooh, nice. Joey?
That was Om Shanti Om.
Oh, that was chanting. Okay, got it. V?
And I'm going to say I'm going to live Om Shanti Om. Thank you.
Very good.
Use that one.
Very good. Okay, gang. It was so good to see you guys, and I'll see you next Tuesday.
Thanks, everyone.
Ciao.
Bye, everyone.
Jane, I'll be sending you an email, okay? Bye, gang.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.